So let's get started with some practical applications. A lot of people say, well, man, I just don't have anybody to talk to. I can't find good prospects. They all kind of shy away from me. How do I get things started? We're going to spend a little bit of time on how to get things started, because that's usually a big question from distributors. My question to my sponsor was this: well, when I get started, people just don't react right. They just don't want to hear presentations. So I asked my sponsor, what should I say when I go out and meet people that'll make a difference? My sponsor said, just be positive. I'm thinking, can you be any more general? And my sponsor said, well, set some goals. All right, yeah, but what do I say? Well, be yourself. Yeah, but exactly what do I say? Listen to a tape. How many people get advice like this on occasion? Pretty frustrating, isn't it? I want to know exactly what to say and exactly what to do. How many people here have ever had a job? You get hired on your job, you come in, they say, okay, you're hired. First thing tomorrow morning, here's what I want you to do. Set some goals and just be positive. We think that's kind of ridiculous, wouldn't we? Or do they maybe take a little bit of time telling you exactly what to say and what to do? Well, shouldn't we do the same thing in network marketing? So if our distributor comes to us and says, exactly how do you meet people? What are we going to say? Well, just kind of be yourself. Kind of smile. Hope they just come up to you and say, here's all my money, let me join your business. Are we going to tell them exactly what to say and what to do to create this, to give them the skill? Because if we could do this, maybe our new distributors would be successful and they might be able to do their entire business rejection-free. Would that be nice? All right, let's take a look what happens to a new distributor. How many people here have ever been asked this question before? So, what do you do for a living? Anybody ever asked that question? Yeah, that's kind of a hard question to answer because, you don't want to tell them about the history of network marketing, do you? Not the whole history, anyway. And you don't want to get into the compensation plan quite yet. You don't want to talk about the products and services and all about, the wonderful it could take a long time. And it's a little bit embarrassing when people ask us what we do for a living because we kind of sit there for a little bit and they think that we don't know. But for a new distributor, it's pretty hard. So let's imagine one day that I'm a brand new distributor for you, right? Here's the life of me, your brand new distributor. Now, being a nerdy engineer, which means pretty much personality free, charisma challenged, character bypassed. I'm not exactly a party animal. I don't want to really go out and be with people. So I'd rather stay at home and read a magazine, but let's say my sister has a graduation party for my nephew. So I go over to the party. I walk in the door. First thing what happens is my aunt grabs me by the cheek, pinches my cheek and goes, "Hey, big Al. Haven't seen you for a long time. So what are you doing nowadays for a living?" Now, when my aunt asks me this, does she really care what I do for a living, or do you think that maybe she's just making conversation going from person to person? Yeah, she really doesn't care what I do for a living, so I don't have to run out to the car and get the flip chart and video. All right? So it's all right. So I said, well, for my aunt, I better make it short, just kind of overview, because she just wants to say something so she can go on and talk at other people. So I say, well, where to start? Well, Auntie, I'm in my own business now, which, I kind of buy products at wholesale and sell them at retail, but they're not in stores or anything. You can't get them in stores. You have to know somebody to get them. As a matter of fact, somebody has to kind of sponsor you. And I've kind of built my own distribution network by myself, and pretty soon my aunt goes, "You sell drugs." And she starts backing away. Let me see. Who is my aunt reacting to? Me. What I said and what I did. And I successfully turned my aunt, a neutral prospect, into a bad prospect on demand. Talk about talent, huh? Just a few seconds right there. Well, that's a little bit embarrassing for me as my aunt backing away, so I run over by the chips and snacks and fill my cheeks like a chipmunk. try to hide, and pretty soon an old friend comes up, slaps me on the back, and says, "Hey, Big Al, haven't seen you for a long time. So what are you doing nowadays for a living?" Well, I'm start turning red and getting a little bit embarrassed and start sweating, and I'm thinking, well, I gave him the short answer, and that really got me in trouble. I better give a longer answer this time so they don't think I'm selling drugs. So I said to my friend, well, I'm with the company that sells products. We buy it wholesale, sell it retail. The differential is the retail gross profit, which is not the net profit, of course, with different tax deductions here. You get to sponsor people down different legs, just like generations, different levels here. And it goes about 4. Why don't you get 4? Everybody get 5, get on different generations. You get about 6%, 13 levels here, and we get 0.5% of the BV and the ultimate letter J. You get 4 Star Trek, you manage to become master of the universe. Once you're master of the universe, you moved up here. Yeah, so anyway, how does my friend react? My friend starts backing away saying, "I think I heard my dog calling. I'll get right back to you. Yeah, I'm back." And I successfully turned a neutral prospect into a bad prospect on demand. Pretty neat, huh? You probably can't even relate to this. Well, I've had enough humiliation, so I run to the other side of the room, hide behind the drinks, wash down those chips. And sure enough, another old high school friend finds me, come up, slaps me on the back and says, "Hey, Big Al, haven't seen you for a long time. So what are you doing nowadays for a living?" And I'm thinking, just kill me now. Well, I tried the short approach. That didn't work. I tried the long approach. That got me in trouble, too. I better go with the company approach. Yeah, I'll try that. So I said to my friend, well, I'm with the wonderful company from the wonderful city of Wonderful, starting the wonderful year of 1991 by Mr. Wonderful himself. Now, Mr. Wonderful himself is a wonderful family man. He has several wonderful families to prove it. We have wonderful fax machines. We have wonderful phone machines. We have wonderful cars, wonderful soy-based things, wonderful newsletters, wonderful phone lines. It's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And my friend is thinking, you joined a cult. And starts backing away. And my friend is thinking, if I get involved with you, I'm going to have to sound just as stupid as you do right now in front of my friends. There's no way. They're backing, they're running almost backwards. Pretty embarrassing. Well, I had enough humiliation and embarrassment. I am out of there. Run out of the party, hop into my car, drive out of the parking lot. On the way out of the parking lot attendant stops me and says, "Hey, I haven't seen you here before. So what do y'all do for a living?" Pretty soon he says, "You're a mime, aren't you? One of those people that don't talk, Get out of here." That's the day that most distributors have when they first get started. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. Can't even answer the simplest question, what do they do? It's embarrassing, humiliating. They get enough rejection like that. What are they going to do? Quit. Sound familiar? Well, you just read about these things, right? But that's what they do. Well, let's take a look at our skills. Right now, somebody would ask you what you do for a living. Would you give them the short answer? Would you give them the long answer? Would you give them the company cult answer? Or do the mind thing? What would you do? Well, let's find out. Let's check our skills. I'd like everybody to, is everybody sitting next to somebody that will still talk to you? All right. Here's what I like to do. Grab somebody next to you. If nobody will talk to you, just eavesdrop on somebody else. I want you to grab the person next to you, and you're going to say this. What do you do for a living? And the other person is going to turn red, embarrassed, sweat, mumble something. And then they're going to look at you and see how you react. And they'll know how good their answer is. And after they answer, they look at you, you reach in your pocket, and you give them all your money and say, "How soon can I join?" They're going to say, "Hey, pretty good answer, right?" Or after they're answering, they take a look at you and you roll your eyes. What would that tell them? Could use a little bit of work, right? Or they give you their answer and they look at you, you put your hand over your mouth and run toward the toilets. What would that tell them? Never use that answer again, right? So what we're going to do is see the reaction of our partner from our answer. Well, let's everybody grab a partner, and one person real quick say, what do you do for a living? Let the other person turn red and get embarrassed and sweat first. All right, let's go. What do you do for a living? Okay, how do we do? Let's do a little survey here. By a show of hands, how many people here would like to work on your answer a little bit? Oh, got here just in time. And you say, well, this is one of the most simplest skills. If we can master this, pass this on to our distributors, I think our sponsoring would go way up, wouldn't it? So let's go to work. There's a couple ways of handling this. I'll give you one of my techniques, and I'll give you one of the techniques I've stolen from Hilton. Fair enough? So let's start with the reaction principle here. If we have somebody ask us, what do we do for a living? We're going to say blah, 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 what we do for a living. What kind of reaction would we want from people? I think the reaction I would like to have from them would be this. The prospect would respond by saying, oh, really? How does that work? How many people like to have that kind of response? That would mean you can have the crummiest presentation in the world and still sign them up, right? And that's the hardest part, getting somebody to talk to. So I would like the reaction, oh, really? How does that work? So here's the technique I'm going to teach right now. It's called the, oh, really? How does that work technique? You might want to write it down. O-H-R-E-A-L-L-Y, comma, how does that work technique? Because you're all graduates of a Big Al workshop, masters of the principle of reaction, you realize that for the prospect to say, oh, really, how does that work? It has nothing to do with the prospect, but everything to do with us, what we say and what we do. So we can create it on demand. That means, wow, what the good news is, sponsoring is entirely within our control. That's the good news. What's the bad news? Same thing, yeah. So let's learn what we can say. I will demonstrate to you the really how does that work technique. You're going to ask me what I do for a living. I'm going to tell you what I do for a living. You're going to respond by saying, oh, really? How does that work? You have notes. You can read them right off there, okay? All we have to do is pick an answer, so they would say, oh, really? How does that work? So imagine you met me at a party, and you say, hey, Big Al, what do you do for a living? And I say this. I sell BMW automobiles. And you're going to say, oh, really? How does that work? No. What would you probably say? You'd probably react by saying, car salesman, really? You know, I don't have a home phone, not even a mobile. I don't even drive. I don't know any people. Never been here before. You've never seen me. Now backing up. That's the more likely reaction, isn't it? But let's try it again. You meet me at a party, and you say, so Big Al, what do you do for a living? And I say this. I show people how to drive brand new BMWs for only 125 pounds a month. And you might say, oh, really? How does that work, right? Same opportunity, same prospect, just different answer. We all see how that works? So what we have to do is just simply come up with an answer about our business, so they will respond by saying, oh, really? How does that work? So what kind of answers could you come up with? Would you like some examples? All right? I'll give you several. You can kind of pick and choose among these, but if somebody came up to you and say, what do you do for a living? You could say, I show people how to fire their boss. Now, somebody didn't like their job, what might they say? Oh, really? How does that work? Maybe try it this way. What do you do for a living? I show people how to pick up an extra paycheck in their letterbox every month. What do you think most people are going to say? Oh, really? How does that work? Or what do you do for a living? I show people how to get a 300-pound a month raise, and they don't even have to ask their boss. Oh, really? How does that work? Or can you imagine somebody saying, no, I really wouldn't want to know that. No. Are there any tax advantages in your business? All right, so let's talk about tax advantages. What do you do for a living? I show people how to get a 100-pound tax refund check every month. Really? How does that work? Maybe you want to talk about lifestyle, free time. What do you do for a living? I show people how to work 3 weeks out of every month, but get paid for 4. Think somebody might say, oh, really? How does that work? Or what do you do for a living? I show people how to take a 1-week holiday every month, and they don't have to stay with their in-laws. Oh, really? How does that work? Or what do you do for a living? I show people how to take a 6-month vacation twice a year. Just seeing if you're good at math. Maybe take a different approach. What do you do for a living? I show young mothers how to stay home with their children but still get a full-time paycheck. Oh, really? How does that work? What do you do for a living? I show parents how to have an extra 3.5 hours with their children every day. You could use answers about your product. What do you do for a living? If you sold a nutritional product, you could say, I show people how to feel like they're 16 years old all over again, but with better judgment. And they can remember when they're 16, stay out partying all night, get an hour's sleep, go to school the next day. Now if they're not in bed by 9:30, the week is shot, right? Yeah. Or what do you do for a living? I show people how to make money every time their neighbor picks up the telephone. What do you do for a living? I show people how to make their skin look 20 years younger in only 17 seconds a day. What do you think people would say?
Oh, really?
Oh, really? How does that work? Well, just the women. Us men were perfect already. Or is it without hope? I forget which one. You may have approaches that are only going to work for certain groups of people. For instance, this one only works for half the people. What do you do for a living? I show housewives how to earn more money part-time than their husbands do full-time. Or try this one. Maybe you meet somebody age 50 and you say this. What do you do for a living? I show people how to retire 5 years early at full pay. Now, it works on somebody age 50, but not at age 15. Age 15, they don't care about retiring 5 years early, and full pay for them is not very much. How many people here have an idea how this works? Enough examples to get us started, isn't it? So out of all these examples, can anybody here find at least one that might work for you? One that you're comfortable with, or one for somebody in your downline? So let's try this again. Let's see if we do any better. Let's see if we're not so embarrassed or self-conscious, or maybe we're more confident because we know exactly what to say. Let's give it a whirl. I'd like everybody to grab somebody next to you. Look them in the eye. One person's going to say, what do you do for a living? The other person's going to say, well, you have some notes, right? So let's see how this works. Let's see if we do a better job this time. Go ahead. Okay, let's see how we did. Well, number one, everybody have a good time? Yeah. Number two, did you feel a little bit more confident on your answers? How many people here notice you didn't dread the thought that somebody's going to ask you what you do for a living? Yeah, you don't have to hide underneath any tables or avoid people. How many people here heard some pretty good answers? Yeah. And how many people here think your distributors would just love you to death if you actually told them exactly what to say and what to do, so they wouldn't suffer the same embarrassment? How many people here now believe skills make a difference? So you see, you don't have to be a superstar, just what you say and what you do. A few simple skills, it makes it easier. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wow, this is awesome. This is probably one of the greatest breakthrough skills in the history of Western civilization. This is going to change our business as we know it, life on earth. But you know what? I do see a small problem. The problem is, not a lot of people ask me what I do for a living. Yeah? I mean, maybe once a month, and I could starve waiting for this to happen. But if they did, people ask you what I did for a living, I just take the easy ones, the ones that volunteered, and I'd only give rejection-free presentations, wouldn't I? People who want it, I'd just give them the presentation, no more rejection, be easy, life would be wonderful, except it doesn't work that way. In the ideal world, if life was perfect, we would have 3 or 4 people every day ask us, what do you do for a living? 3 or 4 people every day would be roughly 1,000 people a year. Now, if 1,000 people a year ask you what you do for a living, you could probably look at 600 of them at least and say, you know what? I'm not going to tell you. I don't even like the way you look. You could be picky, couldn't you? Right? And out of the other 400, you could just pick and choose the most positive volunteers and leave the tough ones behind for the competition to burn up their time, right? All right, that would be ideal. We'd have all the presentations we'd need to give. We'd only be talking to positive people. Life would be perfect. But that would be the perfect world. So, if we wanted 3 or 4 people every day to ask us what we do for a living, and if we happen to be a graduate of a Big Al workshop, seriously skilled in the principle of reaction, what would we have to do to get people to react so they would ask us what they do for a living 3 or 4 times every day? What would we have to do? Hey, excellent, yeah. All we would have to do is simply ask 3 or 4 people every day what they do for a living. And after we ask them what they do for a living, they're going to spend about 10 minutes talking about their long, boring, non-network marketing lives. And when they're done, they're probably going to say this. And by the way, what do you do for a living? And you're going to say, man, I thought you'd never ask. Well, that would get a reaction, wouldn't it? But maybe not the reaction we're looking for. So we might use a different answer. We might tell them what we do for a living. I show people how to fire their boss and start their own home-based business in just 7 minutes, right? Something like that. Everybody see how this works? Totally within our control. So if we want 3 or 4 people every day to ask us what we do for a living, we simply ask 3 or 4 people every day what they do for a living. Now, all these techniques require some sort of common sense, so when you leave here tonight and you run over to Burger King for fries and a Coke, don't ask the clerk. What do you do for a living? They're going to take that as an insult, aren't they? Ask the people in line behind you. Right? Just using common sense. Now, when you ask somebody what they do for a living, they get a chance to talk about themselves, don't they? Do people like that? So it's practically a rejection-free technique. And isn't that what most of your distributors are looking for? To avoid rejection? They really want to make money in the business, but their fear of rejection holds them back. So if you can get rid of rejection, they're going to say, hey, I like this. Well, let's take it up another step. This is pretty good, but we have some shy distributors in our group. Do you have something you can do for shy distributors? Well, let's do a little survey here. How many shy distributors do we have here today? Okay, that's pretty good because normally shy people don't raise their hands. So for the shy people here that didn't raise their hand, let's talk to you. Program for shy distributors. A shy distributor comes up to me. And a shy distributor says, well, I just joined and I want to be successful. What do I have to do? But I'm really, really, really shy. How many people here would like to have a foolproof plan for shy distributors? Ready? Okay. I would say this to my distributor. I'd say, well, Mr. Distributor, if you want to be successful in this business, here's a couple things you're going to have to do. Number 1, don't tell anybody about the business. Keep it totally secret. In other words, don't go around telling people that you're in this wonderful business, anything like that. Just keep it to yourself. Just go on like life without the business existing. Just keep it totally top secret. Can you do this? Shy distributor says, yeah, I can do that, sure. And number 2, Mr. Shy Distributor, I don't want you to tell anybody about the products or services. I don't care if they need them desperately or broke or dying. I just need it in. No, don't even tell them. Just let them suffer. All right? Don't give them a tape or brochure about it. Keep it totally top secret within yourself. Don't let anybody know we have any products or services that could ever help them in their business. Can you keep that totally quiet? Yeah. Excellent. Distributor's pretty wired by now. So, hey, this is well within my control. Number 3, Mr. Distributor. I don't want you to hand out any audio tapes, videotapes. I don't want you to invite people to opportunity meetings or put them on three-way conference calls. Nothing like that. Just keep it totally quiet so they don't even know anything like this exists. Can you do that? New distributor goes, yes. This is the opportunity. It's made for me. Well, pretty soon they catch on. They say, wait a minute. What do I have to do? And I would say this. Well, Mr. Distributor, your mission, if you choose to accept this mission, is this. All I want you to do is help me create world peace. Now, we can't do it all at one time, just a little bit at a time, so here's what we're going to do. Every day, all I want you to do is help 3 or 4 people be happy. That's it. Because if we can make just 3 or 4 people every day be happy, we'll start accomplishing our goal of world peace. Sheriff says, well, okay, I can do that, I guess. So how do I do it? And I said, well, the easiest way to make people happy is to give them a chance to talk about themselves. That makes people happy when they can talk about themselves. So every day just help 3 or 4 people talk about themselves. Probably the easiest way to do that is to, maybe we'll just ask them a question so they'll have a chance to talk about themselves. So what question should we ask them? Hey, how about that one? Yeah, what do we do for a living? Yeah. So every day, all I want you to do is just go around and ask 3 or 4 people, what do you do for a living? Have no other agenda. Don't have any brochures in your pocket. Don't have a flip chart, on your backpack or anything like that. All I want you to do is just ask 3 or 4 people every day what they do for a living with no other agenda, just so they could be happy and talk about themselves. Fair enough? So, well, yeah, I guess I can do that. Now, occasionally this could happen. One of these people might ask you what you do for a living. If they do, I don't think it would be very nice for you to say, well, it's kind of top secret. If I tell you, I'd have to kill you. So if they do ask you what you do for a living, then and only then do you just quickly tell them what you do for a living, get it over with. That's it. That's the only exception. Unless, of course, you run across one of these real persistent people who say, well, oh, really? How does that work? All right, then and only then would you tell them a little bit about it. But that would be the only exception. So your mission, if you choose to accept this mission, is simply ask 3 or 4 people every day what they do for a living. With no other agenda, no rejection, no salesmanship, just forget all that. Just ask them what you do for a living to make the world a better place. Now, your Shire distributor is going to have about 1,000 people ask them what they do for a living. Do you think it's possible that they could find plenty of volunteers ready to go, just looking for something like this out of those 1,000 people? How many people here see a plan for even the shyest distributor to have unlimited prospects without a single mailing campaign, long-distance phone call? I mean, they could just create them 3 or 4 instantly on demand before 9 a.m. every morning if they wanted to, couldn't they? How many people here think you could use this skill? Say, hey, this is pretty good, but should we take it up another level? Why not? You say, well, I already like to answer, what they do for a living, but is the oh really, how does that work technique the only way of doing it? Would you like another way of answering that question? All right, here's another way. This is called the elevator speech. It was made famous by Hilton Johnson. Here's my version of the elevator speech, though, which amazingly is identical to his. I'm going to give you the entire formula because I believe in exact word for word what to say and what to do because of the frustration I had trying to learn what to say in the business. Does anybody here offended if we go through exactly word for word exactly what to say instead of just saying just be yourself, wing it, be general, listen to a tape? Kind of frustrating, isn't it? So here it is, word for word. I'd like you to write down these 2 sentences. This is the complete formula. And then rather than explain it, I will simply demonstrate it, and it'll be easy to do. Here's how the first sentence goes. Well, W-E-L-L, comma, you know how, and then put ... And then in parentheses, put the word problem. The second line goes like this. Well, W-E-L-L, comma, what I do is ... And then in parentheses, put the word solution. Everybody got it? That's the complete formula. So let's kind of fill in the blanks and see how it works. First of all, how many people here are with a business opportunity that solves people's problems? Do you have a product or service or income opportunity? What kind of problems do we solve in our business? Is what? Financial problems? That'd be a good one to solve. Time problems. Health? What kind of health problems? Asthma problems, all right? Stress problems. Weight problems. Okay? Walking hint up here. What other problems does your business solve? Yeah, control our life. Yeah, what other problems can we solve? Time freedom. Lifestyle. Oh, a lot of great suggestions. Can't use any of those. Yeah, okay. Let's take a look. Problem. Let's say that we're going to do the financial problem first. I meet the young man over in the elevator, and I say to the young man, so, I see you going up and down the elevator here every day with us, so what do y'all do for a living? And he says this. Just a moment, let me grab my notes. And he says, well, comma, you know how a lot of people get lots and lots of bills in their letterbox at the end of the month? And I would say, oh yeah, tell me about it, man, it's miserable. Well, comma, what I do is I show people how to get an extra paycheck in their letterbox every month to pay those bills. Oh, really? How does that work? Let's pick one for time freedom. So what do you do for a living? Well, you know how a lot of people work 50 weeks out of the year and only get 2 weeks off for a holiday? And then they have to go and stay with their in-laws? Oh man, tell me about it, it's miserable. Well, what I do is I show people how to work 3 weeks out of every month and get paid for 4. So they have a 1 week holiday every month. Oh, really? How does that work? Asthma. So what do you do for a living? Well, you know how a lot of people, they have trouble breathing and all the smog and stuff, and the asthma, and they're coughing, and their body just doesn't seem to heal itself, and they just never get to really feeling well. Oh, yeah, tell me about it. Well, what I do is I show people how to get their body healthy again so they don't have to spend half their life in a waiting room at a doctor's office for something that's not going to help them. Really? How does that work? Weight loss. In the elevator, I meet the young man and says, so what do you do for a living? And he says, well, you know how a lot of people are fat like you? And that would get a reaction, wouldn't it? But it may not be the reaction we're looking for. But do we see how we can turn prospects into good prospects and bad prospects? On demand. Nothing to do with the prospect, but everything to do with what? What we say and what we do. So probably here's what he would say, being a highly trained, skilled graduate of a big workshop. I say, what do you do for a living? He says, well, you know how a lot of people are always dieting on funny diets, starving themselves and exercising, and that weight just keeps coming back? Oh yeah, tell me about it. Well, what I do is I show people how to lose 2 pounds a week and still eat all the ice cream they want. Oh, really? How does that work? How many people see how you could use this little formula? Pick a problem your business solves, tell them the solution. Now, is this a better way? No, it's just a different way of answering the question. People have preferences how they like to do it. But let's give this a try. I want you to grab your partner and have your partner get ready, and somebody's going to say what? What do you do for a living? The other one's going to say, just a moment, let me grab my notes. And then you're going to say, well, comma, you know how? Insert the problem. Well, comma, what I do is, insert the solution. Simple way of doing it. Everybody grab a partner and let's ask him again, what do you do for a living? Okay, let's see how we did. Quick survey. Number 1, how many people here had a pretty good time? How many people here just can't wait for somebody to ask you what you do for a living? Yeah. Going to change your button, right? Ask me what I do for a living. How many people here think your downline would be thrilled to learn a couple answers? Yeah. Make their business easier, rejection-free, and all you have to do is teach them to go out and ask a few people every day, what do you do for a living? They only take the volunteers, the easy ones, the most excited ones, and that means they could butcher the entire presentation. It'd be okay. They could just really mess it up, and people say, well, I don't have a clue what you're doing, but if we call your sponsor, I bet I can get started. Because they have the volunteers. Well, how many people now are even more convinced skills make a difference? I'll give you an example where skills make a difference. How many people here have ever heard this saying before? In every defeat, there's a seed of equivalent benefit or goodness or something like that. Anybody know how that goes? Every adversity is a seed of greater benefit. Or there's a silver lining in every cloud. Or every problem is just an opportunity in disguise. You've heard all these, right? All right. How many people here really believe that every problem is just an opportunity in disguise? All right. Let me tell you what problems are. Problems. And if you don't believe that, take one of these real positive people come up to you with this really great grin. Say, every problem's just an opportunity in disguise. And you say, well, here's some problems. Want some more? Oh, no, I have enough opportunity. Yeah, problems are problems. But the real truth is problems are opportunities in disguise only if you have skills. If you don't have skills, problems are problems. When you have skills, that saying really is true. The problem is most people don't have skills. So problems end up being problems. I'll give you an example. How many people here have ever been asked this question? So how much money did you make your first month, huh? Ever hear that one? How many people here besides myself just hate that question? And why do people ask that question? Are they really concerned about your financial well-being? Probably not. They're just hoping you didn't make very much so they don't have to go to an opportunity meeting or listen to you, right? We just hate that question. As a matter of fact, you feel like crawling underneath the table and hiding out, or in our presentation, please don't ask me how much I made my first month. Please don't. You know. How many people here besides me have ever had that feeling? Right. That's a problem. But it's not a problem if you have skills. Well, for me, it was a problem. So here's what I did. I'm a firm believer in taking an expert to lunch. Because if you take an expert to lunch, you can pick their brains for an hour or so and learn their best techniques, how they handle certain things. So I went and took an expert to lunch. I found this man named Dale Maloney. Now, Dale Maloney lives in Wisconsin, and his first month in the business, he made $5.65. I don't know, it's about £3.50, something like that. Anyway, that's not a lot of money, even in Wisconsin. All right? Now he's retired and made millions. He's done pretty well. So I take Dale to lunch. I said, so Dale, when people ask you how much money you made your first month, what do you tell them? He's like your stereotypical, looks like the grandfather with the silver hair and all this. And he says, well, Big Al, I'm just an honest guy. Just tell them like it is. So if people ask me how much money I made my first month, I simply have to tell them the truth. When they ask me how much money I made my first month, I say this. I say, I don't know. I haven't finished collecting it all yet. I don't know. I haven't finished collecting it all yet. How many people here are still collecting from something you did your first month? So if you want to be absolutely brutally accurate, you're going to have to tell them, I don't know. I haven't finished collecting it all yet. And even if you didn't sign up with somebody your first month, somebody you talked to may join later, so you still don't know. So the only way you can truthfully answer this question is, I don't know, I haven't finished collecting it all yet. And isn't that a great way of explaining network marketing? You do something right one time and get paid for a long, long time. And people get it. Now they understand what network marketing is. That's a whole lot better than saying things. I really hate it when people say this. Of course, I used to say it too. Is residual income. What does that mean to people, residual? Leftover stuff nobody wants, right? So I find it a whole lot better when you say, I don't know, I haven't finished collecting it all yet, and people, wow, that's what network marketing is about. Do something right one time and get paid for a long, long time. Well, everybody know the answer to that one? Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to grab your partner. We're going to test this out. I want your partner to say this, and you have to do it in a real whiny voice so it sounds realistic. You're going to say, so how much money you made your first month, huh? And you can grab your notes and tell them what? I don't know, I haven't finished collecting it all yet. So everybody grab your partner and have your partner ask you how much. Remember, whiny voice. Let's begin. Okay, let's see how we did. Well, how many people enjoy doing that? Here's the test. How many people right now just can't wait for somebody to ask you how much money you did your first month? See the difference? What used to be a problem is now what? An opportunity. So that saying about the seed and equivalencies and stuff, right, really is true, but only if you have skill. So when you have skill, all the problems you have previously in your network marketing career becomes opportunities. And that's why I encourage people to go to every training they can, the company trainings, hang around with your sponsor, pick people's brains, take experts to lunch, because you learn some skills that turn all these problems into opportunities. Well, a couple of people ask, wow, but I don't really do network marketing full time. So what do I say to people then? Well, you tell them what you do full time and about your business. If they ask you what do you do for a living, say, well, I work at the post office and I also show people how to get an extra paycheck in their letterbox once a month. What do you do for a living? I'm a housewife and I also show people how to make money every time their neighbor picks up the telephone. So you can put in your regular profession and throw this right along in, and that makes people a lot more comfortable, especially when they start off. Especially, they might say, hey, what do you do for a living? I'm a vice president of a local bank, but I also show people how to fire their boss. Really? How does that work? How many people here think you could use that? Simple technique. Well, let's take a look at some networking skills and some more ways of doing it. Let me do a test here. Who are the better networkers, men or women? All right, let's vote on this. How many people here vote that men are better networkers? All right, we got about 5 or 6 men here without their spouses. Okay. And how many vote for women? Oh, all right. Well, it's 50-50, tied. Okay. As a matter of fact, it really doesn't matter what we think. What really matters is what happens in real life, real facts. Let's take a look at real life. I have a friend named John Church. He actually lives here in England. Back in 1991, I flew over with my wife and wanted me to speak to his group. He picked us up. His partner actually picked us up, and he said, "You're not speaking till tomorrow night. Would you all like to see Scotland?" My wife and I said, well, yeah, why not? Let's see Scotland while we're up there. So the next morning, John Church picks us up, and we hop in the car, and he's going to show us Scotland. How many people here have ever been to Scotland? Well, I've never been to Scotland, nor my wife. We start driving. My wife and I in the back seat, John's in the front seat, and John started showing us Scotland. He said, if you look out of the window on the left-hand side, you're going to see some trees. We drive a little bit farther, and he says, if you notice out of the right-hand window, there is some more trees. My wife started rolling her eyes. We go over the hill. John says, if you look out the windows, you're going to see trees on both sides. We go up around. My wife's getting a little bit agitated by now because my wife's not really the country nature girl. She's more like a professional shopper. So we go around the curve, and John says, here are some trees that look amazingly similar to previous trees that we've seen before. My wife taps me on the shoulder. She says, you know, dear, if I see one more tree, you're dead. I said, don't blame me. I'm not doing the tour. You know, talk to John up here. So she says, John, can we go someplace where like there's civilization? You know, stores, shops, people that sell things. He says, well, there's a little town here called Penlockery. So we pull in Penlockery. It's like fair day. They have a whole bunch of booths up and down the street. They're selling a whole bunch of useless, trashy, touristy goods, you know, like woolen ashtrays and T-shirts, just stupid things. And we jump out of the car. My wife jumps out and says, I'm here. And she says, I'm going shopping for the next 5 hours. She looks at John and I and says, well, John, Tom, do you want to come with? We said, oh, no, we don't want to slow you down. Go ahead. We'll just wait in the local pub. So John and I waited in the local pub for 5 hours. She came back from shopping. That night I do the training meeting, come back to the hotel room, open the door. Bags and bags and bags of useless, trashy, touristy junk all over the floor. Well, rough translation. And my wife said, I had a great day shopping today. Look at all the useless junk I got. Something like that. And she said, how was your day? I said, I had a great day with John down at the pub for 5 hours. She says, well, so tell me about John. Is John married? I don't know. She says, what do you mean you don't know? How can you sit with a guy for 5 hours and talk to him and not even know if he's married or not? I said, well, guys don't do it. You know, guys, back me up on this. Do you sit on a bar stool, and do you normally go like to one of your friends and go like, you married? we don't do this. So she said, does John have kids? I don't even know if he's married. She says, well, where does John live? To Europe somewhere? He has like an accent, I think. She asked about 4 or 5 more questions, totally gave up. And she said, what did you and John talk about for 5 hours? I said, football. We had a great time. And, man, that's how we communicate, right? Right. Now, women, on the other hand. Women can sit down, and 2 women get together for 5 minutes, and what do they know? Everything, yeah. The age of the children, their birthday, where they went on vacation last year, the color of the wallpaper in the bathroom. They know everything in just 5 minutes. Absolutely amazing. So based on that case study, not taking anybody else's word for it, based upon that case study, how many people here believe that women might be better networkers than men? Yeah, men, we don't have a chance. We could say the rest of our lives and not even be as good as the worst female networker. They have skills that we can't even begin to dream to understand. So what I'm going to do is pass on a few tips here for the men. All right, and ladies, you may want to, well, you may want to pay attention because, you know, you may have to train a man again, right? So I'll give him a few tips to get started. So let's look at what we can do here. You might be saying, well, that works pretty good. You know, what are you doing for a living and how people respond? That works pretty good, but what do you do if you already know what they do for a living, right? Like your sister or your mom. You just can't go and say, well, you know, what do you do for a living? They're going to think that's kind of strange, right? Or you're at Burger King and the clerk gives you your Coke and saying, what do you do for a living? Kind of insulting, isn't it? Or talking to a car salesman looking to buy a car, and you say to the car salesman, by the way, what do you do for a living? It just doesn't work very good in real life. So there's a lot of times and places you can't ask, what do you do for a living? So what are we going to do? Well, let's use a different technique. Works like this. I'll give you a little background. If you could find out what people's secret, most innermost dreams, goals, and desires are, could you customize your presentation to help them? Yeah. All you had to do is find out what people's secret innermost dreams, goals, and desires were. You can customize your presentation. So we're going to learn a skill, how to find that out. Their secret innermost dreams, goals, and desires. But before that, we're going to warm up with this skill, because it'll lead into the next. Remember we go to that party? And at that party, 20 people told me no. Out of those 20 people, 8 or 10 told you yes. Why'd that happen? What caused that? What did we say? What did we do? Would you like to know what we said or did at that party that caused that to happen? All right. Here's the Big L principle. In order to participate or take control of a conversation, you must disagree with the person talking. In order to participate or take control of a conversation, you must disagree with the person talking. In other words, people are basically disagreeable. All you have to remember is for somebody to take control, or they're going to have to disagree to get involved in the conversation. If there wasn't disagreement, there'd be no conversation. Somebody would say something, everybody else would stick their hands in the pocket and go, Right? It'd be a boring world. There's no conversation unless there is disagreement. Now, I don't mean violent disagreement, not people choking each other. But if you sit next to a married couple while they're having dinner in a restaurant, one will say blah, 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 and the other one will say, yes, but there's no conversation unless there's disagreement. I'll give you an example. Let's say my wife is having a cup of tea with 12 other ladies. And my wife mentions the best place in the whole wide world to buy shoes is Marks and Spencer's. Do you think all 12 ladies are going to put their hands over their pocketbooks and go, Is that what would happen? What would happen? Yeah, they disagree. They say, well, no, Walmart or, I don't know, where else they'd go. This place has Italian leather. This place has a better selection. This one has them on sale twice a year. There'd be disagreement. There's no conversation unless there's disagreement. If I'm sitting with a bunch of mechanics, and I say the 318 V8 engine by Chrysler is the finest engine ever made in automotive history, do you think all 12 mechanics are going to go, No way. They're all going to have an opinion, aren't they? If they go outside in the bar, and I happen to mention that the finest football, soccer players ever in the history of the world come from Texas. What do you think? Be any disagreement? All right, maybe violent disagreement, but yeah, definitely be disagreement. There is no conversation unless there is disagreement. A couple of years ago, I'm on a cruise ship. I'm sitting back by the ice cream machine, my favorite place. And a lady from Bath, England, named Jenny, was on the ship, and I was explaining to her that in order to participate or take control of a conversation, you must disagree with the person talking. She's listening politely, and she said, you know what? That's true for men. But not for women. We like to talk things out, kind of come to a consensus, look at things at different points of view. She says, oh my goodness, I'm disagreeing with you, aren't I? There is no conversation unless there is disagreement. How many people here would agree with that? All right. So you say that's nice, but that's kind of a party trick. I can look at people and see them disagree. But how's that going to help my business? Well, it's a skill. Once we know that skill, let's go to work. We'll go to the party. And at the party, I'm your brand new distributor. Let's see what happens. I walk up to the first person at the party and say, what do you do for a living? And the person says, I'm an engineer. And I say this, you're an engineer? Man, that must be terrible being an engineer. What a rotten job. I mean, you never get a chance for advancement. You have to hang around with a bunch of other nerdy, boring engineers. They put you in little cubicles, you get all scrunched up in a little tiny office to sit in almost like a prison. Man, it must be terrible being an engineer. In order to participate or take control of a conversation, what must that engineer say? Yeah, disagree. He says, no, it's great being an engineer. I love being an engineer. They give you cool pocket protectors for your pants, free tape for the middle of your glasses. And they put you in these cubicles that protect you against ultraviolet sunlight. You can hang up pictures of your imaginary family. You get to work around with a bunch of other cool engineers. I just love being an engineer. Now, does that sound like Somebody who hates their job and looking for an opportunity, or somebody who loves their job? Somebody who loves their job. And I can report to you there's absolutely no prospects at this party. They all love their job, and I'm telling you the truth. But you, my upline sponsoring leader, graduate of a Big Al workshop, highly skilled in these principles and techniques, are at the same party. You walk to the next person, whoa, it's the same person. You walk up to that person and say, what do you do for a living? The person says, I'm an engineer, and you say, you're an engineer. Wow, that must be great being an engineer. I mean, they give you like really cool pocket protectors, and they give you slide rules with graphite on them so they work really smooth. You get to work with higher mathematics all day with a bunch of other intelligent, cool, personality-free engineers. Man, it must be wonderful being an engineer, and I heard it was a great way to make lots and lots of money. In order to participate or take control of a conversation, what must that engineer say? Yeah. So, wow. No, it's not like that at all, man. It's terrible being an engineer. They put you in little cubicles. You can't even stretch out your legs. You never see the light of day because you're stuck in a little cubicle. They never give you raises. You got to work around a bunch of other born engineers. Man, it's terrible being an engineer. I'd do almost anything other than be an engineer. Somebody who loves their job or somebody looking for opportunity? Exact same prospect. Does it have anything to do with the prospect? It has everything to do with what? What we say and what we do. The biggest secret in network marketing is you don't find good prospects, you create good prospects. And that's why distributors frustrate themselves and spend a fortune looking for good prospects. Oh, they'll find some good prospects, but they'll turn them into bad prospects right away on demand because they don't have the skills. Well, later on at the party, your brand new distributor, walks up to the next person, and I say, what do you do for a living? And the young lady says, I'm a doctor. So you're a doctor? That must be terrible being a doctor. I mean, you got to work for the National Health Service, and you got to do all this paperwork. You're around sick people all day, coughing germs all over you. It must be depressing work. It must be terrible being a doctor. In order to participate or take control of the conversation, what must she say? Yeah, she's going to say, no, it's great being a doctor. I love being a doctor. You give you a cool uniform, big car, you get to play with sharp instruments, all the free drugs you can eat. Man, I love being a doctor. Somebody looking for an opportunity or somebody likes their job? Likes their job. But you, my upline sponsoring leader, highly skilled, right? Meet the same person, say, what do you do for a living? She says, I'm a doctor. And you say, you're a doctor? Wow, you get to heal the sick. You get to perform modern medical miracles. Must be fulfilling work. And I heard it was a terrific way to make lots and lots of money. In order to participate, what's she going to have to say? Man, it's terrible being a doctor. I hate being a doctor. All this paperwork and all this administrative work. You never even get a chance to work on patients. When you do, they're always sick and cough all over you. Sometimes people come for a physical. They don't even take a bath first. Man, it's terrible being a doctor. I'd do almost anything other than be a doctor. It's pretty obvious now why some leaders have lots and lots of prospects and other people can't find any. The natural tendency, what would feel natural to us is this. We say, hey, I just have to find somebody and tell them how crummy their work is, and then they'll want to join my opportunity. But it doesn't work that way in real life, does it? It's just the opposite. You see distributors run an ad, and somebody answers the ad, says, I'm looking at your ad for extra money, and the distributor says, well, what do you do right now? Oh, I'm a receptionist. Then the distributor says, well, that's why you're calling the ad. I mean, that's a stupid job. Only idiots are receptionists, man. They don't make any money, no chance, man. It's just lousy. No wonder you're calling about this great opportunity. So what's the person going to have to say? Disagree. He said, well, no, it's really not that bad being a receptionist. I mean, you get a chance to, get a regular paycheck. You never have to worry about it. You get a regular paycheck every Friday. Give you a really cool, cushiony chair to sit on. And, it's a steady work. You always have a place to go to, I don't even know why I'm calling you. Natural tendency, but it's all wrong. No matter what somebody does for a living, we're going to have to learn to say, it's wonderful, it's great, I heard it was a terrific way to make lots and lots of money. Simple skill, going to change your prospects. From instead of going out there and saying, man, there's just no motivated prospects, you're going to go out there and say, wow, everybody's motivated. Simply from what you say and what you do. See, my first year and 10 months, I found a bunch of unmotivated jerks who didn't want any opportunity. Amazingly, after I found a few skills, these same people were just anxious to get involved. They have a change of heart, or maybe I learned better skills. So no matter what somebody does for a living, we're going to say 3 things. Number 1, that's wonderful. Number 2, that's great. Number 3, I heard it was a terrific way to make lots and lots of money. Everybody got it? So let's practice this as a group. We're going to walk up to the next prospect as a group, all 100 of us. And when we walk up, we're going to do this. We're going to say, what do you do for a living? They're going to say what they do for a living. No matter what they do for a living, we're going to grab our notes and say, that's wonderful. That's great. I heard it was a terrific way to make lots and lots of money. We all have this down as a group? Not a hard skill. You can put on a 3x5 card and teach your downline. All right? So let's do it. Let's all walk up to the next person. We say, what do you do for a living? The next person says, I'm a toxic waste handler. And we're going to say, that's wonderful. That's great. I heard it was a terrific way to make lots and lots of money. Oh, we can say that with integrity. I mean, look at the advantages of being a toxic waste handler. All right, you don't have to take your work home with you. You save on electricity, you glow in the dark. You kind of get a buzz when you go to work every day. Yeah, there's some advantages, right? So we can say it with integrity. No matter what somebody does, it's wonderful, it's great. I heard it was a terrific way to make lots and lots of money. Just another method to create prospects instantly on demand. And that's why you got 8 or 10 people at the party to say, hey, tell me more, and I got nobody. What we say and what we do. But let's give this a whirl. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'd like you to grab yourself a new partner, just so you meet somebody brand new here. And the best way to do it is we all just turn around and talk to the person behind us. We would simply be facing the other way. So that wouldn't work. Instead, if we could have the first row, just simply turn around and look at the second row. You know, third row, could you raise your hand? Do you know who you are? Third row. Turn around and look at the fourth row. Fifth row, raise your hand. Do you know who you are? Turn around and look at the sixth row. Seventh row, raise your hand. Yeah. You turn around and look at the row behind you. Past that, just start faking it, all right? Here's what we're going to do. I want you to ask your partner, what do you do for a living? Now, please, because this is a special group, please answer what you did for a living before network marketing. I mean, we're all network marketing, right? So answer what you did before. If before network marketing you were a housewife, say, I'm a housewife. If before network marketing you were a serial bank robber, say, serial bank robber. If you're a one-eyed bungee jumping pirate, one-eyed bungee jumping pirate, all right? Please answer what you did before network marketing. After they say what they do for a living, you quickly grab your notes and say, that's wonderful, that's great. I heard it was a terrific way to make lots and lots of money. Just for the practice to see how it feels. Everybody grab a partner, turn around, let's begin. What do you do for a living? How do we do here? Number 1, how many people had a little bit of fun? Hey. Yeah, I met somebody brand new, and you know, when you ask people what they do for a living, it's really not a very invasive question, is it? You know, people say, yeah, it's all right. Give me a chance to talk. How many people here think that you could teach this skill to other people in your downline? Yeah. It's simple enough that even men can learn, right? They say, wow, this is pretty good. I can teach everybody, you know, all you have to do is ask people what they do for a living. No matter what they say, it's wonderful, great. Heard it was a terrific way to make what? Lots and lots of money. Wow, that particular skill is going to work 100% of the time with 100% of the people, right? No. All right, what possibly could they say? Yeah, I like my job. You know, I mean, it's possible, right? Yeah. So let's see what happens. Somebody, you at the party, say, what do you do for a living? And then they say, oh, you know, I own my own business. And you say, it's wonderful, that's great. I heard it was a terrific way to make lots and lots of money. And they say, Oh, yes, it is. You say, darn. Well, that's probably not the right answer. So, if somebody does like what they do for a living, and they're happy with it, is our mission in life to make people unhappy? No. So if they love what they do for a living, just leave it alone, let them be happy. Okay? Don't worry about it, because we're going to get them on the second question. Because it is possible they like what they do for a living. And the second question, here's the background and skill. Remember earlier I mentioned if you can find out what people like to do in their free time, or like to have secret dreams, goals, and desires, things like that. Remember that? If you could find out what people like to do in their, when they're really worrying about, do I have this dream goal, something I want to achieve? If you can find that out, could you customize your presentation? Yeah, you can make a presentation just for them. Now, is it possible for somebody to really, really love their job, but have some secret dreams, goals, and ambitions they can't achieve in their job? Somebody like a school teacher says, oh, I just love teaching and developing children. It's just great. But she also may want to take her family on a round-the-world vacation for a year. But she can't do that because she has to show up at class on Monday morning. So it is possible for people to love whatever they're doing, but it may not achieve all the dreams, goals, and ambitions that they have. So all we have to do is find out what they are, and presto, we can give them a custom presentation that's going to help them. Well, how are we going to find out people's secret, most innermost dreams, goals, and ambitions? How are we going to do it? Ask them, right. So let's see how that works in real life, because today we're talking about real life. No theory, just real life. So let's say I'm talking to RJ here. I say, RJ, could you please tell me what your secret, most innermost dreams, goals, and desires are so I can use them against you in approximately 5 minutes in my sales presentation? Yeah. It sounds good in theory, but does it work very good in real life? Not so good. Because what happens is RJ will probably do a couple things. It'll probably kind of make an answer that makes him look good or something to impress me, but it's really not the real answer. You know how people make things up that sound good? I call them Miss Universe answers. Sounds good but means nothing. See a couple confusion here. So let's take a look at it. Ever see a Miss Universe contest on television? All right. Every year somebody wins, right? Okay, so when somebody wins, they put a crown on her head, tears. She cries on demand, just like she practiced at home. And she's crying, and they put a whole bunch of roses in her arms, and she runs down the runway going elbow, elbow, wrist, wrist, elbow, elbow, wrist, wrist, right? Goes down the runway. And then she comes back, the announcer sticks a microphone in her face and says, now that you've won the coveted title of Miss Universe, what do you plan to do throughout your reign over the next 365 days? What do you plan to accomplish? And she goes, sniffle, sniffle, cry, cry. I plan to help the brotherhood of humanity by uniting them with the vibration of consciousness over and over again throughout mankind worldwide. And then she's off the stage, elbow, elbow, wrist, wrist, off the stage, and that's a Miss Universe type answer, isn't it? Sounds good, but means nothing. Yeah. And is that really her secret, innermost dreams, goals, and desires? I don't think so. Anyway, she gets off stage. Her sister's waiting for her backstage, and her sister says, hey, sis, you won. Way to go. What are you going to do now that you're Miss Universe? And Miss Universe grabs her crown, flings it across the room like a frisbee. I'm going to Disney World. Yeah. I'm going to get a modeling contract. I'm going to get an acting contract. I'm going to get a singing contract. I'm going to get all the endorsement contracts I possibly can over the next 365 days. Ka-ching! Now, how many people here think that might possibly be your secret, most innermost dreams, goals, and desires? Yeah. But you really can't say that on stage. They would consider it poor taste, during the pageant. Well, what we have to do is find out our prospects' secret, most innermost dreams, goals, and desires, and it's really quite easy. Let me give you this test. Now, this is not a trick question. But if I ask you, if you had some free time coming up where you had nothing else to do during this free time, what would you choose to do? Would you choose to do something you really, really like to do? Or would you choose to do something you really, really hate to do? Yeah, I like to do, right? That's not a trick question. It's not too hard. Yeah, we do something we really, really like to do. And if it's something we really, really like to do, it's amazingly close to our secret, most innermost dreams, goals, and ambitions. So all we have to do is find out what people like to do in their free time. That'll make it a lot easier. Let me give you an example. I'm talking to the engineer, and the engineer says, I love being an engineer. It's great being an engineer. I mean, they got new double ply pocket protectors coming out from my pants. It's awesome being an engineer. And I would say this. Well, so you enjoy being an engineer. When you're not engineering, what do you like to do in your free time, like weekends, holidays, and vacations? And the engineer says this, well, every Friday at 5 o'clock, I hop into my four-wheel drive, and I drive up into the mountains, and I go fishing. And I fish until 3 a.m. on Monday morning, at which time I drive down the mountain, take a shower to get off the fish smell, and I go back to work. And I do this 50 weeks out of the year, except for the 2 weeks I take holiday every year, at which time I hop on a fishing boat in the North Sea, and I go fishing for 2 solid weeks. Now let me ask you, what possibly could this engineer's secret, most innermost dreams, goals, and desires be? Go fishing 24 hours a day, how many days a week? 7 days a week. Can he do that as an engineer? No. Could your network marketing business possibly give him a little bit more time to fish? Yeah. It's easy now, isn't it? You can just customize your presentation. Let's talk to the doctor. The doctor says, I love my job. It's great. I get to heal the sick, all the free drugs I can eat. Yeah, it's a great job. I just love it. And I would ask this question. So when you're not doctoring, what do you like to do in your free time on weekends, holidays, and vacations? And the doctor says, well, every weekend I volunteer my time downtown London at the drug rehabilitation clinic, helping people get off drugs. I do that 48 weeks out of the year, except for the 4 weeks I take holiday every year, at which time I hop on a plane and I fly to Mexico and I help them build churches. Does this sound like a frustrated missionary to you? Yeah. She probably would like to spend more time in her missionary or charitable works, right? But she can't do it because she has to show up every morning at Monday morning at 9 o'clock at her ear, eye, nose, and throat clinic. Could your network marketing business give her more time for what she'd like to do? Absolutely. So if you can find out what people do in their free time, it's easy. So the question you're going to ask people is this. What do you like to do in your free time? Like weekends, holidays, and vacations. And let them tell you. And this is an excellent question that you can use to start a conversation. Especially with somebody that you know what they do for a living, like a coworker. You don't want to turn to them and say, what do you do for a living? Obviously, that'd be considered, what, an insult? But you could certainly ask them what they'd like to do in their free time. Couldn't you? Go to Burger King. When the clerk gives you your food, saying, hey, when you're not at Burger King, what do you like to do in your free time, like weekends, holidays, and vacations? I say, well, I just like to listen to music and travel to see big band concerts, Could be. Simple, non-evasive question. What do you do in your free time? Anybody can ask it. Very friendly, but gives you all the information you need to see if your opportunity can help them. Fair enough? I'll show you how it works. Training one of my distributors, I went out and bought a car about 2 years ago. And the distributor's in the back seat about the car, and we're driving down to the petrol station to fill it up with petrol. The salesman says, hey, let's fill it up with petrol for you, which means you really overpaid for this thing, so we're going to throw in some petrol. So we're driving down to the station. I turned to the salesman in the front seat, and I turned to him and said, so when you're not selling cars, I'm training my distributor in the background, right? So when you're not selling cars, what do you like to do in your free time, like on weekends, holidays, and vacations? And here's what he said. He says, well, I'm 28 years old, just got out of prison. I got in trouble when I was a teenager, and, they put me in prison, and I deserved to go there. But now that I'm out, I got this job at this car dealership selling cars, and I really appreciate it. So I spent all my time, putting in extra time trying to prove that I really appreciate this job. When I'm not here, I'm down at the local church or at the karate studio trying to get more discipline in my life. And when I get enough money together, and I hope I do well here so I can get my own clothes and my own apartment and everything, and when I get it together, I really hope to spend some time helping other teenagers so they don't fall into the same problems I did. He said all that in 1 minute. How many people here have a business that may be able to help him? Well, easy, isn't it? Simple question, what do you do in your free time? Like weekends, holidays, and vacations. So if somebody loves their job, or you already know what they do for a living, here's a perfect opening. You can go at a shopping mall and ask every clerk there, what do you like to do in your free time, couldn't you? Just making conversation, great way to meet people. They love talking about themselves. And you'd end up with all the prospects you need. Rejection free, because you only talk to the ones that volunteered, gave you good information. Let's try this. Everybody grab your partner. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'm going to ask you to ask your partner, what do you like to do in your free time, like weekends, holidays, and vacations. And you're going to find out that your partner may have something pretty interesting. For instance, you'll find out that maybe they like to read poetry. Some may like to write poetry. Some may just want to sit by a lake and read a book. Some like to play golf. Some like to fish. Some like to jump out of perfectly good airplanes. All right? Some like to play with their grandchildren. Some like to travel. You're going to find an amazing variety of things that people here like to do in their free time. So I'd like you to turn around and find your partner again and ask your partner this time, when you're not doing your regular job, what do you like to do in your free time, like weekends, holidays, and vacations? Everybody grab your partner. Let's begin. Let's find out just out of curiosity. Well. Everybody have a chance? I like the comment up here that Steve made. He says, this is a great question because maybe somebody's a student or you already know what they do. You can't ask everybody what they do for a living, can you? No, so it kind of fills in the blank. So like you, I've been there and says, now what do I say? Because I can't ask them what do I do for a living. What do you like to do in your free time is a perfect question to ask. How many people here had a little bit of fun? There's a lot of different variety here in this group. Wouldn't you agree? Was it fun finding out? How many people here think what you could do just as a hobby everywhere you go is just ask people what they do in their free time? Just as a hobby with no other agenda, and just take the easy ones, right? The desperate ones that are on their knees crying, kissing your shoes, saying, please give me a solution. Just take those only, right? Simple question, what do you like to do in your free time? Well, there's more to this. We don't have time today to go into the whole background, but let me give you a hint. A lot of people say, Big Al, you're a nerdy engineer. Pretty much personality free, charisma challenged, excitement bypass operation. So how is it that you're able to build relationships with people? How is it so when you talk to people, they're nice to you? Kind of a warm relationship. They're not coming up with a lot of objections. How do you do that? How do you bond and build that relationship with people? Well, like everything in engineering, we have formulas. So I tell them my formula. It works like this. If you want to build a relationship with somebody, ask them this question. What do you like to do in your free time? Weekends, holidays, and vacations. Listen, that's it? Yeah, it's a formula. I wrote it right down here. Everywhere I go, if I want to build a relationship, I just ask that question. Engineers have exactly what to say and do for everything, right? If you walk next to an engineer, you listen to them, they're whispering left foot, then right foot, left foot, then right foot. We have to have everything exact. But let's do this test. After you told your partner your secret, most innermost dreams, goals, and desires in this last exercise, right? How did you feel toward your partner? You like them. You just shared your secret, most innermost dreams, goals, and desires, right? You feel more bonded, friendlier. You're not going to be mean and rude because you just told them these things. Pretty amazing, isn't it? How many people here see how you can build instant relationships, whether over the phone or in person, by a simple question called what? What do you do in your free time? Yeah, these weekends, holidays, vacations. Easily done by asking one simple question. This one simple question might be the most powerful thing that you take home today. After the 1-minute presentation, what do you do for a living, and 6,000 other techniques that we're going to be covering. But it might be one of the most powerful things you take home today. And how many people here think that this technique, like most of the techniques that we're learning here today, is going to work better when you use them? Yeah. It's one thing to take notes. It's another thing to what? Do it, yeah. So let me ask you this. How many people here promise that the next time that you meet somebody you don't know, that you're going to ask him, what do you like to do in your free time? How many people promise? Your hand? Okay. Because if we use these techniques, they work a whole lot better. So we all promise next time we meet somebody we don't know, we're going to ask them what? What do you do in your free time? Find out their secret, innermost dreams, goals, and desires. Well, let's move on. Ready for some more techniques?